Good evening, civilians. We are doing another version of Saturday Smackdown, and it's one that's going to start on a pretty somber note. I had originally planned on doing this edited documentary-esque video it wasn't going to be too long, it'd be like 10 minutes, and I just couldn't get the script together. I couldn't write all of it out. I couldn't grab the clips, and I was very irritated with myself for that part. I think what happens is that a lot of times when I'm thinking of doing some edited video, I might underestimate the amount of time it'll take to do it because I'll look more at the length and be kind of like daunted, or rather, what's the way of putting it? I'll be more inclined to be non-receptive to doing it via its length, and then when you get to the actual scripting part, I don't really think as much of like, hey, with the editing, how long is this going to take? Where's this clip going to come from? That type of thing. So I um I still want to do it, but like I said, I usually just hate making promises and then not keeping them, which is why I try to not do that often. So that's something that really frustrates me. But yeah, one of my favorite videos to go back to is probably the Taft one. Just because I always thought he was a very ignored historical figure. So to kind of spotlight him felt really nice. And, some of the stuff that people were writing on it about, this is the most information I've seen about him, etc. I like it when you take someone who you can, see as important and they're not really talked about as much as you think they should be, and just kind of spotlight them in that way. Um, so I don't know. I don't want to close the book on doing documentaries, but every time I just think about the amount of work that goes into them and how few people watch it, it's always discouraging. That's why I was saying one of the things I thought of that could make this a little bit easier would be to like put up excerpts of them in the meantime. Like, hey, here's a part of it, piece of it, and then that would probably make me feel better. But even then, I still don't entirely know if that would get the juices pumping, if I would still feel motivated to that extent. I think a lot of times what ends up happening as well is that I'll have multiple different big videos like, "Oh, that sounds kind of cool. I'd like to do this. I'd like to do that." And then they kind of converge on each other. Like they in a weird way, they cancel each other out because you'll start doing a piece of one, then you go back to another. And really what it comes down to is I just have to learn to take one big, you know, God knows it could be several hour video, and just hunker down on it, and then get that out of the way before doing any other ones. And it's hard to do that because a lot of these are very appealing to me. It's kind of like dipping your toe in water from one pool and wanting to take a swim, and then you go to another pool and dip your toe in it. That water feels just as good. It's a temptation of trying to have it both ways, or all three ways, or all four ways, but you can't, because I am just one individual. So whatever stuff I choose to split my time between is automatically going to mean each different separate part gets less and less of me. So yeah, I don't know if I'll do it now. I'll try to, but I'm not gonna make any promises about release dates. I know Jem was really looking forward to that video. He got very upset and probably unsubbed by now. So I've lost one of my top supporters over this oversight, and I can only blame myself. Shouldn't have told him I was gonna do it. Oh man. The other part of it is when you do a video that long and it's about all these different topics with someone's it could be their tenure in office. It could just be like on a singer, or some other significant historical figure. Um what ends up happening is when you get into parts of like, let's say someone drinks or someone, did some act of violence. I'm always thinking about how it's funny how when news people cover this stuff, they get paid no matter what. They don't like that's it. They're getting paid for doing their job as reporting something factually. But then if you talk about it, even if you try to put it in a way where it's not as graphic as it could be described, which I do think sometimes undersells the point of this stuff because I think certain things should be described to their fullest extent. You'll get demonetized and you'll basically be made to uh, suffer for just again describing something. And I get frustrated with that a lot because I don't think it's right that again if actual news places cover this stuff, they don't have to worry about that happening. But if you're on this website, you do. So yeah, that's just my overall thought on the topic. It is really interesting to me how I really like the idea of just making this giant video that just goes over a topic in full. Like it cites books, it cites different credible sources. And it's to a point where if you have any questions about someone's views on this, what happened to them, you could just go to this one giant video and that's it. You don't have to look anywhere else. It's all in one section. I really like that. Like that concept just sounds very appealing to me because one of the things I talked about is I would like to eventually get to a point where we just start phasing out, sites like WikiPiss because I don't like the idea that someone can just go on and be like, well, I don't like that this gets talked about as much on this page. So, you know, I like that you can just all the information you that I think is important, I can take it, stick it in some 3, 4, 5, 6 hour video, and it'll be there. Oh man. So these websites, they do themselves no favors. That really would be my dream to just like have so much of that historical stuff like on one channel, just the basic information of it to where I never have to use that other site again, like for pretty much any purpose at all. Like, oh, you want to learn about this person? Here's a documentary on them. Oh, you want to learn about this person? Here's a this video on it. I just like that content, and I know I probably never will actually accomplish that because there's so many different historical figures and um, various things that it just, in my opinion, probably would be too much for one person to try and cover by themselves. But I do like the idea of just gradually making it to where I don't have to go on there anymore, like for any purpose whatsoever when it comes to trying to learn something about history. Because I do think that site is biased in certain areas that they don't like acknowledging. Um, and generally speaking, when you have someone who says outright, "Hey, look, this is my viewpoint, and it's what I'm going to support with these facts," I think that's more beneficial than having someone who says, "Oh, I'm definitely trying to remain neutral. Yeah, look at the way I've worded this." Because, like I said, you can claim to be non-biased, but then purposely leave out information that makes someone look bad that you like. And I try not to do that. That's why I said there's a lot of potential in different things. I just don't feel like they're ever really given the type of what's the way of putting it? The type of focus they should have, or the types of restrictions they should have to make them be as good as they could be. Because I was just thinking to myself, I sometimes will like write a script for something, and because I said before, like sometimes before I write a script, I'll write an outline, and it's basically like a summarization of the key events, so I know like what direction it's going in. And I'll say, why can't this be made? And why can't people, if I make it, go out and watch it and share it? And like I thought that was the dream of this stupid site, that you make a good video and then people go watch it, and if they like it, they share it with their buddies. Because I've done that with plenty of people that I like. Um, I used to have this one relative. I would show them all the different commentators I would listen to, and I think I said before that if there's a video I really like, which it happens here and there, I'll watch it probably like 4 or 5 times just throughout the year. Um, Usually, if I consider it valuable for some reason, either because it's conveying some information I didn't know, or it's entertaining, just a variety of stuff. And I said that like that's the biggest problem I've always had with a lot of just I guess the way people are on the site, where I know for a fact that most of them don't just rewatch stuff that they've seen before. And we talked also about how like most subs don't even watch anything you put up. But it's kind of depressing that they could find something they think is enjoyable and then only see it one time, and then like that's it. I think the only times I've found something appealing or like very enjoyable or likable, whatever, and then not watched again, as if the person just gets rid of the video, or maybe I can't find it, which does happen here and there. That's why I said I just think people have a lot of potential. And what's the way of putting it? If they just applied themselves more with some of this stuff, we could see a much different result. And I don't feel as if most people actually try to do that. I think a lot of them live these mundane lives where they go on the internet or go to whatever their job is, and they do it because they have to, and then they get back from wherever they work and just kind of goof off for a little bit, and then the process repeats. And I don't know, I just think that's sad. Because like I said, I have my fantasies of breaking out here. I know it's not probably never going to happen, but I still try. And when I convey information, I try to do a little bit of research into the topic so I can know what I'm talking about if I do a video about it. So even if I said I wasn't fully what I wanted to be, I still feel like I make more of an attempt than a lot of people do, if that's any consolation. Because really, at the only thing I feel like I could do more of is probably like edited stuff. But I already said before that a lot of times it's hard to do that when you have to like grab clips and just sit down and write things for like a protracted amount of time. Like if I do some 3 4 5 hour video, I think I would be better off if instead of trying to write the whole thing first, I just do pieces of it and then stick them all together. 'Cause I think that way it wouldn't seem as daunting. Um, if I'm trying to do something like, let's say, a movie, I'd rather write the whole thing and then try to start, drawing out pieces of it or whatever. What I'm talking about, because in that case, you're talking about a narrative that you need to, in my opinion, fully know what you're doing before you start trying to make it. Otherwise, it can become like this muddled mess. But um, in the case of just like an educational video, for the most part, the pieces that get separated by themselves can still work by themselves. Because people upload excerpts of documentaries on here all the time. I'm just saying I probably will start doing that more often than just trying to make this big giant video. And if you can hear that, I apologize. It's somebody's dog outside. That reminds me of that one stream where I had the window open and people were able to hear somebody or some group of people outside, like at a pool or whatever. And I was laughing because um, in this instance, it's even worse since I can't, like, that thing is closed. So there's nothing I can do about it unless I just go outside and chase the pup until to quiet down. Just like the stream I did when I was at the motel and the guy was like, there's a beeping noise. Like, what do you want me to do? It's in someone else's room. I have no, like, I'm telling you, man, sometimes people just act like if they hear a little noise, it could be someone else talking, it could be an animal, it could be some kind of machine going off. They act like if they hear this little itty bitty, not even really loud noise in the background, that they're like, I don't know, traumatized or something. It's so weird. Like they have to hyper focus on it, you know. I can't believe this thing is going off. Stop, stop it, stop. I can't. If somebody else wants to do that and it's outside, like I have no control over it. So it's just another one of my pet peeves. I don't know. I think sometimes people do forget that when you do a edited or just even a recorded video, it's a lot easier to kind of control what the atmosphere of what you're making is. Whereas if you're doing a video where it's or excuse me, a live stream, it's harder because you don't like you can't forecast what all is going to happen. That's why sometimes if I did a stream at like, like 10 in the morning, which it was a few minutes ago, or even 6 in the morning, or 2 or 3 in the morning, I do those that early because I know that no one's going to interrupt me. They're all asleep. Now, there's been a couple of exceptions where there was one person that did get up at I thought they would be asleep until 12 something like they usually are, but they actually are up, which is really irritating, because that creates the possibility that they'll be like, "All right, you've been doing this for an hour and a half. Shut it off," that kind of thing. Still can't get over that you treat it like it's a job remark. I was like, I wish there was a job where you only had to work 4 hours a week. What a joke. It was really funny because we were talking about like people draw and they get paid online and how like they'll say you need to apply yourself, you want to get that same thing, like commissions or whatever. And I said, well, the problem for me is that when I look at the people who supposedly apply themselves and they're so famous from getting all these drawings that people want them to draw to make money off of, to me, they seem like they don't really apply themselves that much at all. I mean, you go to their sites, their listings, and they have if you want one character, it's like $30, and then it's going to be this one character against some white background. You know what I mean? Like, or if it's a background, it's like some other random color. Then if you want two characters, it's like another 20, or if you want three, it's 70. And then if you want um a specific, like, I guess what I'm getting at here is when I look at how much these people charge for what is some pretty minimalist art, just stuff that's not really that advanced, and then they're also telling you, "I won't draw this, I won't draw that, I won't draw this, I won't draw that." To me, it's and when I say I won't draw that, I'm not talking about like something, that could be interpreted as gross. I'm talking about like they won't draw machinery, they won't draw, like advanced designs. Like it's one of those things where I just can't really take it seriously as far as is this person really applying themselves under the metric that is being said that I'm supposed to if you can find them taking basic art request and extending it to these ridiculous, in my opinion, price gouged extents, and then expecting people to not only pay for that but to also adhere to this set of rules that they've created. I saw one person's rule where they said they wouldn't draw anyone's characters that they made themselves. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. So if somebody makes a character and they want to see another artist's rendition of them, you won't do it, even though they'll pay you. Really? It's weird. Like I said, there's certain stuff you want to draw. I get it. Um, but the idea that you would be antagonistic or outright against someone illustrating or rather, you'd be against illustrating a picture of someone else's character is just baffling to me. So I said, people they do some weird things I don't quite understand. Because if I was an artist who was getting paid to draw people's crap, and they said they can draw my character, like, oh yeah, sure, whatever. But just to like ban it, like under no circumstance will you ever illustrate a character that wasn't made by, I guess, a company or some other, uh, some official genre. It's just it's weird. But that's why I said these artists, they're a really bizarre group to me. And I think I mentioned that I did a stream where there was like someone who I tried to pay to draw something for me because I liked their style, and I made a request of them where they did it, and I said, hey, can you just make the person shorter, like just take the same picture and just make the one that's a child smaller, which would just be require them to just like take like go on their editor and just stick them down. And they lost their minds. We're talking about they're not going to do this, and I just got out of there. Thank God I hadn't paid them yet, or else I would have been really upset. You asked them to make one little alteration, and it wasn't a minor one because again they can just go in their editor and push it down a bit, and they react that way. So I was done with them after that. Never meet your heroes. I've known about that person for a long time, and I was shocked by their conduct. I said, "This is really how you're going to treat me?" Because like I empathize to an extent of like with people who keep changing what they want over and over, but I didn't do that. I saw the non-finished image. I asked if he could just make one smaller than they were, shorter, whatever. And his response was to tell me that it was too much and too tough, and I'm not doing this. And that's why I left out of that stupid server. But yeah, in general, I'm probably like since then, I'm not likely to try to like support other artists because I think they're some of them are just too either too pricey or too picky. They all have their own vices because some of them really believe they're going to make this massive living off of their art, and it's not because they're getting so many commissions that they can support themselves this way, but which is is not the case. Instead, they try to price gouge people with their stuff. Like, oh, you want this one character drawn, $30. I'm telling you, man, if you saw some of the art that people are like really trying to get paid, like I said, it's not even just the prices, it's what they're doing. Like just a sketch of one character, they want like $15 for. Are you serious? So I said, I don't understand people and their ridiculous crap. But like I said, I don't know if I should call them ridiculous or call the people that support them ridiculous because they wouldn't be able to do this if they didn't have anyone, acquiescing to their petulance. So I guess that's the true person I should be criticizing. For me, it was just a really sad discovery because I don't enjoy speaking ill of these other people. How's your weekend going? Well, it's it's all right so far, I guess. I mean, I got up around the time that was pretty conducive to when I'd like to get up to do the stream, and I got a couple of errands I have to run. One of them I really don't want to, but it's okay. It's not anything great. I guess that's the best way I can respond. Um, I think tomorrow might be a little bit better, but I don't know. because they might spring some surprise on me. Yeah, in general, I try to not get too caught up in a lot of this stuff. But I was just mentioning the other artists because I do think it's kind of crazy that people like let them get away with that stuff. I said before that the problem I've always had with, especially just like as an adult, with just seeing people who are considered successful online is they have these fans that let them just do whatever. Like, I'm not even just talking about, oh, this person said something we don't like. I mean stuff where they actually do criminal acts and they don't really, if they do get punished, it's more by the site than the actual community surrounding them. Like, um, it's I don't know, it's just I get tired of this. It really feels like when someone gets enough subs on here, they just have plot armor and they can do no wrong. It feels that way with some artists too, where I've seen a couple of them that'll like go on Twitter or some other website and they'll talk trash about people in their server or whatever, and then all their fans will go, "Yeah, man, yeah, yeah," like bobbleheads, just like. I already told you the worst group are those cosplay chicks. Like, at least with the artists, they have a talent, even if they overprice you for it. With a lot of those chicks, all they do is just put something on and like people gush over them and donate to them. And man, they're almost as bad as the reaction channels. Just no effort required for views on here. That's what was proven there. I tell you, one of my favorite gimmicks of some of those reaction channels is they'll take a screenshot from a show or a movie and they'll make their reaction like the same exact length as the show or the movie. So when you click it, you think it's like the episode that they or movie that they've like re-uploaded, and then it turns out that it's just them sitting in front of a camera and you can't even hear anything, or if you can, it's like flipped around so they can avoid a copyright strike. I just think it's funny because they do that on purpose to get people to click on their crap. So on this site, you have to do a lot of weird and ridiculous stuff just to get people to watch a video. It's kind of it is kind of sad when you think about it. Just they don't expect you to see them any other way than with trickery and cons and hoodwinks. By the way, Megumi, I'm doing a new romance video, and it'll come out next week. And then when the video doesn't come out next week, and you say, "Hey, where's the video?" I'm gonna say, "I don't owe you a video." Because remember, when I tell you that I'm gonna do something for you, I also don't owe you me doing it, even though it was I who told you that I would do this and set you up to have the expectation that I would. I tell you, the irony of that never like catches up to those people. They'll never understand how you can have someone who you're related to who thinks you are completely useless. You will do nothing to assist them. And again, it never occurs to them that, hey, maybe I shouldn't tell this person I don't owe them anything, and then expect them to reach out to me if they're in some situation that they might not be able to solve or crack by themselves. I do feel in this era that a lot of stuff seems very superficial and disingenuous. That's why I said that, like, online, people put up versions of themselves. Like, I try to be fairly honest with certain things. But again, we know when we're talking in front of a camera to act a certain way, but it's to a point where people get money over like dumb stuff, right? Not over talent. It's over, oh, look, this woman put on some outfit. Oh, this person makes videos where they stare at the camera and do this and all the rest of that. You know, it is superficial because there are people who have actual talents. Um, whether they can make a video, whether they can draw, whether they can, write something, and they don't get paid anything on this stupid site. This is reflected in the content of a lot of people on, yeah, like I said, there are people on this site who can make whole 3D models. Like, they'll sit there and sculpt 3D and make it look like a person. They can make it move, they can make it dance, they can make it emote with, different facial expressions, and they don't get paid anything. So there are still talented people on pretty much on every site, but they have nothing to show for it. And it's not because they're not trying or they don't make an effort. They're people just don't know who they are and they don't care to support them. I tell you, that thing with those artists was so funny. $30 for a black and white sketch. Like, I think it's real funny that they know that there aren't that many people that will actually like pay for their art. So instead of just, you know, going and getting some job in some other field and then this being like a little side thing they do for some more cash, they're like, okay, well, if anyone gets a commission from me, it's gonna cost an arm and a leg. They adjusted their price for inflation. They want to try get as much coins out of a lot of people. They probably don't really have much people willing to invest money in their stuff anyway. Well, this is what I'm saying. Like, even when I, for a brief period, tried to become someone that you could commission from, I still had prices that I thought were fairly decent, like $3 for a sketch. Maybe it could be like 6 or 9 if you want to add some more characters in there. Because really, I didn't like how to explain this. I'm a lot more comfortable of my artistic skills when it comes to hand drawing versus stuff on the computer. Even though I do think if I spend enough time on the computer one, it can look better or look, much more. I'm talking about the more time you put into it, the more decent it'll look. Um, and like I said, it was fine for me to put prices that low because it wasn't going to be my main thing anyway. That's what I'm saying, that the people who put it to where it's $30 for a picture of one character or 50 or 60 for a picture of 2 or 3, they're trying to make this a career and their main source of income, and they're gonna keep falling on their face because when they keep raising the prices to such an extent, most people are not going to be willing to invest that much in that crap because it's too damn expensive. Like, you can get a $60 picture from this guy or a $60 video game that you'll spend way more time with. It's like, I'm just saying certain stuff should, in my opinion, should never be a certain price. Like, I don't think anyone on there draws pictures that are so damn great to where an image of one character should be more than maybe like $20, and even that's pushing it. So again, people can do what they want. They can have their ridiculous prices. They can have people who are willing to acquiesce. I'm just saying that I personally have never been a fan of that stuff because I do think you limit the amount of people who can support your stuff by making prices that high. And I do think in the long run it's going to end up hurting them because like I said, most like there's a lot of people who just are not going to spend that much for a picture. Yeah, I definitely agree. Then there is the sentimental value that can become a factor into the pricing as well. I'm just saying, I think what like it sounds cool when they're thinking up those prices, and then when no one want when only like maybe 3 people a month will actually pay for this, the reality sick because I've been in some of these servers and on some of these sites like Twitter, and they're like, "Oh, if I had more money, I would definitely get a commission from you." Right? So that's like a person admitting, "Hey, your thing is too damn high," and they're put in like a nice way, and they'll still keep their stuff up, at again these giant prices, which I just think is sad because it's going to keep on limiting the amount of people who can actually support you. Like I said, I wouldn't even try to like have an actual career off. The only way you would see me try to seriously get a career off of art is if I have like 100 or 200 people trying to commission me every month, and like, and even then, I probably still wouldn't even, because like I said, you have to think of what day you want to draw that stuff on. I don't know. It's tough to really characterize all of it. I think I'm talking about like the numbers have to be there. Like you have to have a certain number of people that are steady. It's kind of like how when I was at the last job I worked, there was this lady that did hair, and uh, she was talking about how she had been doing hair for like 10 years and she had all these different repeat customers. And I was like, it's interesting that for something that, I mean, like I said, you're not going to see me spend 40 bucks on my hair per year, even, but it's interesting that for something that is going to just keep, um, you know, being a thing that they have to worry about, they're going to keep coming to her and trying to get it done again, and then that'll be a repeat person that she can, continue. I don't know. What I'm saying is, um, you have to have something like that to even make an art career, commission career actually take off. Like repeat customers, people that are going to keep coming back and asking you to draw more stuff month after month. I'm just saying, if the numbers aren't there, then this stuff isn't worth pursuing. At least not in the capacity of like trying to make it your main thing. I don't mean to segue into this, but the hair business is something women in general have over men as well. I heavily agree. Well, yeah, because I mean, like I said, there's a whole bunch of hairstyles, and like people who you'll have some woman, for example, who after like 3, 4 weeks says, "Hey, I want to get my hair done again," and it could be either for some party, for some major event that's important to her. Um, so they're going to keep going back to these different people or these different women, whatever, that they know are reliable and are someone who does their hair in a way that they like, and keep paying them each time. Which is why I said that, like, it's one of those things where if someone has enough people that want a repeated service out of them, then they feasibly could turn it into a career. No, you can segue. I'm just saying that there in that particular regard, in the example I tried to bring up, it's just to illustrate that there are certain things in this world with regard to your career where you have people who are repeat customers that are reliably, every couple of weeks or months going to come and ask you again if you can service them, and it's a lot easier to live off of that than some of this online stuff, which is much more unstable. I told you about well, you probably didn't see that stream, but there's a guy that like covers the news, and he made some video talking about how he's got like over 1 million subs. He did some video and it only had like less than 2,000 views on it, and it was weird because the channel was so big and the algorithm was screwing him up. And another person who's got like 900,000 made a video about him, talking about the algorithm. And I was just thinking it was funny how like YouTube is so unstable that a person who regularly gets probably like 70,000, 80,000 views a video, their next video could get less than 2,000. Oh man, that's hilarious. Like that just shows you that this site can make and break you any day it picks. And of course, people in the comment section are, they act like jerks. Where's that what that one guy, right? I screenshot it, I thought it was funny. Smallest violin, time to get a real job. You all had a nice sugar high, making six figures for about 10 hours of work a week, thanks to Silicon Valley. Isn't it sad that like the internet encourages you to pursue your interest, and then some people who supposedly make it where they have like hundreds of thousands of subs, you know, kind of like get comfortable just posting videos and making money that way. And then one day that same website that built you up says, and then your stuff just comes crashing down, and then you're expected to just now go and get a supposed real job. I'm just saying, like, I think that just shows how like content creators are set up to fail because you have a system that encourages them to prioritize this site above any like career in the real world, whatever. And then when the site turns on them or doesn't promote them the way it did before and they suffer for it, you then get told to go out and get a real job, even though the website is the reason that you even like this site promoting you is the reason you have a job on here. It's just it's weird. That's why I said like men are set up to fail, but that's a topic that can be discussed at length. Time to get a real job. The smallest violin. I mean, I would be pretty upset too if I had 1 million subs on here and then I go from getting 70 or 80,000 views a video to 1,000, and then somebody's like, time to get a real job. It's like, what the man, people are so nasty for no reason. Like this site tells you via all these damn advertisements, via all the super chats, that when you get a certain number of subs, this can be your main income, and it's okay to like not work anywhere else because you're getting the numbers on here. And then if you don't get those numbers for reasons that are to some extent out of your control, because I don't control, like we don't control the algorithm on here. You don't, no one who makes videos controls it. The algorithm is determined by people clicking the like button and certain channels that YouTube chooses to promote. But the same website that builds you up gets to not promote you for a day. You lose a whole bunch of views and subs, and then you're told it's time to go get a real job by some random person that probably doesn't even have 5 subs or any video. It's weird. Well, they said that because I was like, hey, I want to do my stream, and I always do it on Saturday and Monday, and I'm like, isn't it sad that I try to just have like a hobby that I'm like kind of dedicated to, in the sense that I have like a certain time I like to do it, and it's like it's made out to be a bad thing, or it's made out to be like something I treat too seriously. Like it's just it's weird. It like that's why I said people. I put that title there because they said that to me as right before I was getting ready to start that stream, and I was like, it's just strange to me that you would try to, I guess, say something negative about my dedication to a thing I just like to do. I mean, like a lot of times I only play video games late at night, later in the day. I don't have like a set time for it, but it's something I tend to do, later on in the day than or versus like the morning hours. Um, and I don't see them complaining about that. That's why I said people are just. No, I'm glad this isn't my job if it means one day after they build you up, they just break you back down. Like Megumi, imagine if you had 1 million subs and every video you do gets 60,000, 70,000, 80,000, 100,000. Then one day you get less than 2,000 and people are like, well, time to get a real job. You're like, what? What? You know that the worst part about it is when you're hired by like a major network, like they have these different news anchors that appear in videos for like Fox, for example. The people that channel can do just as bad as anybody else's, but the people that run that channel are still going to get paid because they're actually on TV. So, with like with a salary and like an adjusted contract, we don't have that if we're just regular content creators. They can just pull the rug from under you any day of the week. They can be like, all right, well, we don't want you to have 700,000 subs anymore. So we're gonna make sure nobody sees your crap. Because YouTube, the CEO admitted that they prioritize official sites, or rather, excuse me, they prioritize official brands over regular people. Like they'll if there's a news story, even if I did a video that gets the same number, which this would never happen, they're gonna get more views anyway. But if I did a video about it and it got like, let's say, thousands of views, I'm still gonna get a lower placing in the search results than like CNN or something like that. Because they admitted they prioritize official licensed news organizations over regular commentators, and they do the same thing with pretty much every other category. Which is really frustrating for me, but whatever. At least I know it's not just me. It's them doing it on purpose to, talking about they want to stop the spread of false information. Like what false information am I spreading? If I have a news article and I have again, like the actual story that I can show on screen in a screenshot, or send the link, what fake information am I spreading? It is messed up because it means that anyone who is trying to become something on here is very limited in terms of their scope. That they're unless they just get this big surge of subs from some other like real life campaign, they're always going to be in the dark or in the shadows of one of these official organizations. Oh, but that's how YouTube does you. They like you for a little bit. And then when they went corporate, they pretty much throw you in the trash. Because like I said, when I've been on this site pretty much since it started, as far as like watching it, I remember people who would just turn on their camera and they'd have like 3,000 views. And they weren't getting this many views because they went out and promoted it, or no, because YouTube would just slap anything on the front page and then anybody could take off. But now it's a really coordinated thing of just people unfortunately not really working in the best interest of regular commentators. So pretty much if you're not some big person who's got like the backing of a network, you can forget about it. I don't like saying that because I don't like to be negative, but I mean, hey, it is what it is. I look at the numbers, I look at the official statements by the CEO. I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right. I tell you that they're just such a joke at this point. Like I don't even. I usually try to stay away from her interviews because I get irritated just listening to her. But that explained a lot. I don't know. It's stuff like that is just depressing to think about. That like no matter how well you make content, you're purposefully being kept to the side compared to these other people. by the site that you're doing all this free stuff for. They might throw some pennies your way, and then they'll say, "Sit down, peasant." Man, YouTube is awful. It went when it went corporate. That was when it merged with Google. That was it. No, YouTube went full insane person. It's really sad. That's like just it's another one of these things that started out good and then it got corrupted. I don't know. I'm just in general disenfranchised with websites. I've noticed that they're really. It's like the more time goes on, the less and less I like each one of them. But that's because with a lot of them, they have like things about them that are just really absurd, or they have some person in leadership that's just not actually doing what they're supposed to be doing. Like Discord really probably is the most free site you can go to as far as like if you make a server, you can just put whatever you want in there. But like what's really sad about that is that people gravitate toward that site to do nasty and screwed up things to other people and um don't feel as if they can do whatever they want because that site in general doesn't really go after anybody ever. I absolutely remember when YouTube, the private messages and the channel layout was more expressive. Oh yeah, I remember when you could like make your channel whatever color you want. You had to like enter in like the number and letter combination, and then you could have like you had your favorite videos, and you could put that in front of your actual videos. And you had YouTube friends, like people that you added as friend, they accept you. Oh, I absolutely remember the private messages because they would have the date on there. They'd have the person's little picture and the subject line. Because I used to message some of the content creators that I liked and say, "Hey, I liked your video. It was good," etc. And now the only way you can try to talk to somebody is in their damn comment section. And a lot of people on this site, and even ones that aren't that big, admit they don't even read that. So they've actually made it harder than ever to just directly say to someone, "Hey, I like your videos." Man, I remember the 5 stars and remember the 10-minute time limit, then it was 15, then they just, like, got rid of it altogether pretty much. That's why I said I miss the old version of the site. Like, the only thing I wouldn't want back is the time limit because I do think the site's better off allowing people to speak longer about. Because before this, when that limit was still there, people would put up rant part 1, rant part 2, rant part 3, and I like that they just got rid of that. Um, but everything else is just seems worse to me. Like, I would definitely prefer the 5-star system over the likes and dislikes. I remember that I used to upload a lot of videos back then on my old channel. Yeah, it was just a much let me see. It was much more interactive back then. Yeah, because people actually spoke to each other. You could go in people's their channel comments and you could see people having whole conversations. Hey, how are you? What's going on? Da, 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 da. Yeah, like it felt, even though it had challenged with millions of views and all the rest of that crap, it still felt like a site where people actually communicated and had a community and spoke to each other. And like I said, I remember all of it. I remember these different features and how they just gradually got rid of each one. And now it's not even like it really, the site is basically just a bunch of people uploading stuff. And there are some people that like to, maybe watch it, whatever. Um, but that whole like interactive part is pretty much gone. I mean, Jesus Christ, when you go on somebody's stream now, if some of them don't even have 100,000 subs, they won't read your comment unless you send them a super chat. Hey Megumi, you want me to read your comment, which will only take me like, I don't know, 10 seconds? And I don't even have like 1,000 or two, or was it 2,000 people watching me? Send me some money. Like, think how crazy it is that you can't even interact with people who aren't even that big unless you send them something. They won't heart your comment, they won't thumb it up. If you write something directly on their chat, they ignore it. That's why I said this site went from being a place that encouraged people to speak to each other, to be receptive to others' works, to just a place where a bunch of money hungry bastards try to grift and get a career off of doing whatever stupid idea they have for a video that's going to get them some views they can think of, and a bunch of individuals who will just go along with this stuff. It's really sad, and I get that kind of feeling, or if that happens to me, I tune out. You don't think that's really crazy that like channels that aren't even that big, ones with maybe like let's say 20,000 subs, 40,000, I've seen them ignore their entire chat. Like, and I'm not even talking about like reading each comment because I try to do that, whatever. And there have been a few times where there's just too damn much to read. But I'm talking about where they'll have maybe like let's say 50 people on a stream, or some number like that still is like maybe close to 100, and they won't read anything anyone writes except for super chats. Twitch amplifies this problem because they have an option that you can only chat if you're a subscriber of their channel. You know what? I know some people who do that on here, and they do it because they know that people like to mess with them, and they make like fake, like garbage, trash, throwaway channels just to write something nasty about them. But even then, it's like I don't know. A lot of the restrictions just get on my nerves. That like the way people, because a lot of this stuff is imposed by people. Like they choose to limit who can say something or who can talk. And a lot of these people aren't even large themselves, but they act like it. They're too busy speaking for 2 hours to read every other comment or every 8 or 9 comments on their chat. Yeah, I believe that. It's really sad to go to somebody's stream and write stuff to them, and they're staring right at the screen, and they're just letting it scroll by. Just scroll, just scroll, just scroll. That's why I said, what's the point of going to a stream if, I mean, like I said, most of them are just somebody talking, right? But like, what's the point of going to a stream if the people that are streaming are not going to talk to you? They're not, unless you send them some money, which go to hell with that. They're not saying anything that you can't hear from their regular video. Like what? Like again, what's the purpose? It's like, hey, let me listen to this person speak live so they can ignore me almost as much as if they were recording a video. Which in that case it would make sense because they're recording it and they don't know what I'm thinking about them. No, Twitch has all kind of weird rules. They have certain terms you can't use. You can get in trouble for stuff people write in your chat, all kind of goofy crap. That's why I've never taken them seriously as like an alternative to here, because there's just too much restrictions. So I just try to stay away from. I don't know. It's like the more sites I get on, the more irritated I am with the way people act on them. Mm. Really rude. And I know, right? It's like I want to watch something that has no commentary or not speak to the person streaming. I'll just watch a video. I attend streams mainly to have an interaction with the streamer. And I told you that like I can be sympathetic when it comes to people who have 1,000 people watching, 4,000. Like I get it. You can't the stuff is moving really fast, whatever. But when you're talking about some of the people on this site where they have and some of these people literally they have thousands of subs and they'll get maybe like 200 people watching the stream, 300, 100. They can read comments. I think if I had that many people watching, I probably would just talk for a little bit and then just read stuff people were writing. But a lot of them really just ignore every single thing that gets typed in their chat. Unless and that's why I said that like you can't even give them the benefit of the doubt and say, okay, well, maybe their computer is formatted in some way where they can't read. No, like they'll see if you send them a super chat, they'll see it. So they know that people are writing stuff to them. They just don't care. By the way, Megumi, I was gonna ask you because I never got your opinion on this. Do you like are you excited for Spider-Verse 2, the movie? I don't know if you because I know you said you like the Raimi trilogy and you're not really into the TASM stuff, but do you like across the what was it? What was the first one? Into the Spider-Verse? Because I really like that film just from it being something different. Um so I am a little bit excited for the second one, but not entirely because they're talking about adding so like one of the strengths of the first one was that it had this small group of characters that it focused on and gave some depth and characterization to. And for the second one, they're talking about 240 characters, and I'm just like, oh, please don't be Young Justice again. But yeah, I never got your opinion on that. I don't know if you like them or not. If you liked the first one rather. Gotta say I have. Oh, can't say I have. Hmm. Yeah, the only five Spider-Man films I care about is 2002 film, the second one, the third one, so the Raimi trilogy, No Way Home, and Into the Spider Verse. All the rest you can throw out with like a baby with the bathwater. By the way, I was actually watching somebody's video, and it was about what if. So I think I said before that like the original plan for um, the like that original trilogy was that the fourth film would come out in 2011, and that's like around the time the MCU really started with because Avengers came out a year after that. So one of the theories that people had is that at some point Sony probably would have tried to merge again that original Maguire iteration of the character with Marvel's cinematic universe. And it was interesting because like someone did a video where they were like, okay, so you get the fourth movie, then you get them in Avengers, then you get the fifth movie, then you get them in Avengers 2, then you get the sixth movie, then you get them in, Infinity War and Endgame. And then they were like, oh, but what about No Way Home, the big movie where all the villains from the past come back and the different Spider-Man meets? And someone said what they could have done was have it to where there's alternate universes where all the villains from the past, and in this instance, it would just be like 7 Raimi films, right? All who like died, for example, all come back to like cap off the series, like in this final showdown with his entire rogues, where some have like redeemed themselves, like Doc Ock, and others, like the Goblin, are just as evil as they always were. And it was like, wow, that would have been way more interesting than yeah, let's take these villains from this other stuff that people didn't really like and bring them back because everything has to be represented according to our mandate. I honestly did like No Way Home as well, but I've not seen Into the Spider Verse. Well, I don't usually recommend movies, but people are saying it's one of the greatest comic book films ever. I don't know if I'd go that far, but I liked it. I think it tried to be something different. It's got some nice twists that I appreciated. Um, so I would recommend it, but if you don't want to, you don't have to. Yes, make Spider-Man 4, please. I'd pay money to watch that indeed. I told you every time, like, because this year we saw what Vulture would have looked like. Like they actually have a what is it, like a clay model of what he with and the wings. Oh, it was so comic accurate and like the way it was being described, where he was like this torpedo that just comes down from the sky and just zips you up. Damn, man, we missed out big on that. Man, I hate Sony so much. Oh, we could have had something so good, and they just them and their stupid, messing things up with Raimi. It's I'll never forgive them for that one. I'm saying when you hear some of the ideas that people have and just what we got instead, it's just really depressing to think about. Like, man, if they did this movie and it ties into this other, you know what I mean? Like, it's like what could have been is almost always so much better than what actually was. And there are some instances where somebody has an original idea and then it turns out to be crap, but a lot of times they'll have something where they wanted to do it and you're like, hey, that could have actually worked. That would have been kind of cool to see. Because one of the theories that people had after No Way Home came out, especially since Holland was talking about he doesn't want to keep playing the character until he's 30, which is like 5 years removed from now, or I guess 4 years removed from now. Now is that since we don't know when he's coming back, Sony could easily make Spider-Man 4 with Raimi. And it's even more infuriating because I don't know if you keep up with DC, but they're gonna put out the Flash this year, which has two different Batman in it, Batman, whatever term you want to use for him. And they also have the Robert Pattinson version of Batman that came out last year, and the second one's going to come out the year after next year. So it's really frustrating that we can have multiple Batman on screen like at the same time, and people understand they're different versions from each other, but we can't have multiple Spider-Man for some. I don't know. It's just it's weird to me. That does remind me, though. I did see something that Xenoverse 3 is in development and will be released sometime next year. I'd have to look that up. Man, they've been floating and teasing that game since like 2017 or 18. I'm not even joking. Sometimes I have to remind myself the first one came out 8 years ago. The second one came out 7 years ago, and we've just been stuck with that game for over half a decade. I tell you, if they were smart, they would have stopped updating to like last year and saved all the stuff from like superhero and just like the anything they wanted to implement, right? For the third game. So when you start the third game, you already have like 20, 30 new characters and all these different stages, and people would have been way more excited than, oh, by the way, there's a third one that's in development after we've added more DLC for this game for the what is it, 16th, 17th time. Imagine if they stopped updating Xenoverse 2 2 years ago and they just work on the third one. They don't announce anything. They just say, hey, look, 2 is done. That's the full extent of stuff we want in this game. And the third one gets announced. It comes out in like this year, 2024, whatever. And it's got 20, 30 new characters, a whole bunch of new stages. And like people would be excited. But instead, you've been oversaturating this second game for seriously, I've never seen another video game in history with 12 DLC packs, 30 characters you have to buy separately from the game. I've never seen another game with that with a dozen DLC packs. I've seen some with 1, with 2, with 3, not 12. God, man, like that's insane to me. And it technically isn't even just 12 if you count some of the other stuff they have in there. I know that Goku Black in his base form is like a separate thing, so that's 13. The superhero stuff is like 14 and 15 because there's 2 packs of that. So God, the only Dragon Ball DLC I'm a little bit excited for is the one for Kakarot because they're gonna adapt the last arc of the original Dragon Ball, the Piccolo Junior tournament or the Piccolo Junior saga, and that has like I can't remember the last game that was in, so I'll wait and see what how it plays before deciding if I want to get it because I already got the base game, but I didn't get any of the DLC because I was like, what's the point? I don't even know how that's going to work. You're going to go back in time and fight people stronger than you're going to fight people that at the end of the original series are stronger than the ones at the end of Z. Oh, by the way, Megumi, I never told you with that game because I remember I think I told you that like it was the Saiyan show with Piccolo. Um, in that game, when you beat it, you can play as like any of the characters that you actually got to use more than once. So Goku, Gohan, Piccolo, Vegeta, and Trunks. But what's really funny is that since Piccolo doesn't have any major fights during the Buu saga, and since future Trunks just like goes off and disappears, like after the Cell saga in the manga, that means that they're both like still at level 40 something when you get them. So that means whenever you have like a random enemy encounter, they're going to get creamed or barely be able to fight against the enemy. So like you basically you can use them, but you're probably not going to win your fights or they're going to be extremely hard. And that game's experience system is garbage. You get like barely any points from actually going out and trying to level grind. It's really bad. I never mentioned that like by the time you beat the game and you get Piccolo and Trunks back, you can't even like use them for anything because they're just too damn weak. Yeah, so Megumi, in I'm talking about like in Pokemon, for example, when you go to your first like patch of grass, you're gonna get some level threes, some level fours. Um, in this game, you can go to areas that you first played in the game where there were level threes and level fours, and you'll have like level at the end of the game, right? You'll have level 60s and 70s, and the only 3 characters you can really use to fight them are the ones that have fights in the Buu saga where they've leveled up since then. So, Goku, Gohan, and Vegeta. But your other 2, which are, Piccolo and Trunks, you pretty much can't use at all. Because they're under leveled and the game didn't level them up for you. And the only alternative you have is to replay various story fights and like grind them that way, which could take a while because like I said, that game is a joke when it comes to like actually, making battles give experience points that are worth the damn unless it's like a story one. I'm telling you, man, that game I don't know what's wrong with them, and I'll never forgive them for not letting Krillin be playable. That doesn't make any sense to me. Like, let's make Trunks playable, who in the game only has 1 fight, but we're not going to make Krillin playable, even though he's a fighter throughout the whole whatever. It's like the criteria to be a playable character in that game is you have to be a Saiyan and maybe have like 1 singular battle. I like how they cut out they have so you can't fight second form Cell as future Trunks, even though they do fight in the show or in the manga, whatever. But then you fight second form Cell as Goku, which is not canon whatsoever. They because they didn't fight, they just met and he teleported away with Tien and Piccolo. So it's like they it's funny that they make like a deviation like that, and it just shows they're even more bizarre with their choices. God, that game is weird. And it has it like minus the DLC, it really has no replay value. But even then it's like I'm gonna play this DLC where I play through stuff that just focuses on the same two characters over and over. So I have like level 300 Goku and Vegeta, and everybody else is like 200, or it's like stupid. Like it's just that's why I didn't get that stuff, because I'm like I don't even like the show of Super making it be about the same two characters over and over. So why would I want to play through story related things that encourage me to only play as the same two characters over and over? And I've heard for the long time how people regard this game to be one of the best Dragon Ball games ever created. No, like Fighters is good. I have my trouble with its. I had like issues with its base roster when it came out, but I think it's a fun game. I like Xuniverse 2 a lot, because again, like of the character customization and doing stuff with friends and whatever. But Kakarot is easily the weakest out of the three by a landslide, because it pretty much plays the same way Xuniverse 2 does, but it doesn't have that customization. And it's like this is an RPG, but it never really feels like that. When you fight the computers, you barely get any experience, which artificially inflates the length of the game, because like you can literally fight 20 enemies that are the same level as you and you still won't level up, because they barely give you any experience. So it's a game that had a lot of potential, and I think some of the DLC kind of realizes that a little bit, because I've heard a lot of good things about the Trunks DLC, but it's just not a game I'll probably ever play again. It's it's really sad, because it does have a lot of things that if you just like retooled them a bit would work, but they never get there. Like if the enemies, the computers actually gave good experience, a decent amount, right? If you could play as the humans as well, at least Krillin, because like I said, he's a major player throughout all of Z. So I don't know what the logic was behind, not it's like, oh, he doesn't fight in the Buu saga. Well, neither does Piccolo, and he's still playable. So, but if they just retooled things a little bit, that game would be so much better. And I don't know why they can't just make their own original stories anymore. Like, oh, we don't have you play as humans because they don't have any major. Most of them don't really have any major battles in Z. Well, like hell, you guys are making an RPG, so I should be able to play as whoever the hell I want. That's a fighter. It's just weird, man. Like, so, like that's why I said that. Like, we were talking earlier about how like people have potential that they waste. Even games are like that, where you can like see the makings of something that could have just been great, and it's crap. The game's not awful. It's not something I hate, even though it did had some levels that made me just want to turn the thing off altogether. But like that Dr. Zero fight with Piccolo was awful. I hated every minute of that. They making it a grind fest for the sake of it being a grind, as Justin mentioned a moment ago, artificially increasing length of the game. I'm telling you, man, like I want to one of these days I'm gonna turn that game on again, and I'm gonna get a stopwatch, like use my phone as a stopwatch, and I'm gonna count how long it takes to level up one time just fighting regular enemies in the wild, or just like like wild encounters, because there's no reason why the enemies should give so little. And I'm gonna keep talking about this game because it's still relevant. They're still making DLC for it. They put out a Bardock DLC, what, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, probably even shorter than that. Part of me almost wants to get that just to play as someone that's not Goku, but I mean, I don't know. The other part is like, well, hell, why is Bardock playable even though he's only in a movie and some specials, but basic characters like Krillin and Yamcha are not? Like, this doesn't make any sense to me. Time, way more fights. Like, I don't get that. Tell you they love those sayings. You could have a saying that's literally only in one episode, and they'd be like, personally, this is oh, they're more focused on keeping you playing the game longer than making the content good. How can they do that? Do Krillin like that though? Well, I could make a whole video on how even though Krillin is an essential part of Dragon Ball Z, who actually gets more screen time than Goku through multiple arcs, a lot of through the Saiyan the Cell sagas, and you can only play as Goku, Vegeta, Piccolo, and Krillin. Excuse me, Goku, Vegeta, Piccolo, and Gohan. And even though Krillin is featured throughout the whole story, I mean, let's not forget in the Frieza saga, he's literally one of only two fighters there for most of it. Um, he just has no major, he's just not playable. Just he's there for like basically with you throughout the whole story, but you can't play as him. How that makes sense, I don't know. It was the same thing with Legacy of Goku. I mean, like I forget the first one because you can only just play as Goku and they skip over everything anyway. But like the second one, they adapt the Android saga. You can play as the Saiyans and Piccolo and Hercule for some damn reason, but you can't play as Krillin. So any game where it's not a fighting game with like a decent sized roster, you can pretty much expect them to not be used, unfortunately. And they've been doing this like American video game companies have been doing this to him since the early 2000s. Anytime it's not a fighting game, whether he's playable or not is up for debate. Seriously, you could make a whole video about Krillin's lack of playability in non-fighting games, like and how problematic that is. Because I'll never that just shows you that they really think kids just want to play as Saiyans all damn day long, that they don't like it. And I said before that like it's so sad that they limit themselves for no reason. This game went out of its way to make future Trunks playable and and only give him one fight, even though he has multiple ones in the actual show. But oh, Krillin, who's got way more fights and is nope, forget him. I told you, man. Between these American made games and GT and most of Super, he just can't catch a break. And I've been praising the Super manga as of late because the last two chapters were actually something different, where they were about Goten and Trunks. I was like, yes, finally. They focused on somebody else at last. I think Goku and Vegeta are in the last chapter for like one page. I was so happy. Like they're not even my favorite characters, but anybody else would be like, dude, they could make a whole chapter about Chi Chi cooking, and I'd be like, yes. Favorite chapter of the year. Where's just her mixing stuff, like trying to get recipes or whatever. No, I'm not even like if as long anytime they focus on someone who's not Goku or Vegeta, it's automatically like a win, and it's some like character from Z or the original. It's automatically better because it's different. It's not the same old crap. They're going to high school and they got these classmates, and it's apparently a prequel to the superhero movie. I like it, and I haven't liked the Dragon Ball Super manga in a long time. I haven't liked it since they made it look like Vegeta was going to beat that stupid goat with his new his new technique, and then the goat ate up his partner and in turn got a new rip off cell looking form and beat him. I honestly would be down for that premise. It would be so refreshing just to see other characters and their individual stories. Well, that's what drives me crazy about Super. Super introduced the most characters probably out of any Dragon Ball related thing since Z ended. And like all these different universes, right? You have Universe 6 with that has Saiyans and the Mechians, and like I guess they didn't have a Frieza equivalent. And we never get to see it. Like they introduce all these gods, right? Who are just as strong as Beerus, who all have their own individual histories and backstories of how they attain the role. And we none of it's been elaborated on. So I guess That's why I said Super is something that could easily go on for 100, which it probably will 100 chapters, 200 chapters. It could go on for literally forever, like an American comic book. And if it actually delved into this different stuff, could be refreshing, all the way until Sunday. But they're too hyper focused on Goku and Vegeta to ever again reach their full potential. So it's sad, man. I tell you, they limit themselves. They introduced all this new stuff and just never elaborated on it. We still don't know what happened to Trunks. He just went to this timeline where there's two versions of him. Like I guess that'll never get resolved. It's been 5 years, still no idea of what occurred here. It doesn't even have to just be like slices. I mean, if they want to tell some big major story, like one of my problems with the Moro arc is that okay, Moro's the main villain. You're gonna have Goku or Vegeta beating probably Goku because we have to do the same repetitive thing every arc. But you introduce all these henchmen for him, and then the other Z fighters can't even beat them. Like Krillin beats the tubby panda, and then the three chicks fuse into this big blob woman and just smack him around. I'm like, what is that? And then it's like, okay, well, cool. Him and Roshi are gonna team up to defeat her. No, Goku one shots her and saves the day. It's like, okay, what was the point of having them there if they're not whatever? So that's why I said that manga is just really irritating. And I really do not like Toyotaro just in general as a writer. I don't think he's that good. I think a lot of his stuff is repetitive. I don't really like his art style either. I think it's very formulaic. He steals a lot of poses, um, which I try to not. I don't want to turn to an art critic, but it's just it's sad that series could be a lot more than what it is. But you could say the same thing about Boruto if you really think about it. Like, man, let me see. There. Okay, I already read Akatsuki Merchant's comment. I'm telling you, I so want to make that little even if it's just one episode. I so want to make that little Dragon Ball like thing I was talking about. That's like set between when Frieza is defeated and then when Trunks shows up for the first time, because it actually does focus on pretty much all the other Z fighters and in just one episode. And it's supposed to like give you an example of how in like a 20-minute episode you can do a lot of stuff. So all this stuff about, oh, it's too, they can't focus on all of them. It's like, guys, these chapters are 40 pages long. You're telling me you can't, just like with Tournament of Power, you're telling me you can't focus on 10 characters in 50 episodes? Really? A lot of the problems with Dragon Ball have to do with the fans. They refuse to let anyone take the spotlight besides Goku. Well, yeah, but now it's being written by a fan. Toyotaro was a fanboy who got his start by making that AF manga, which was a sequel to GT. And now he's been promoted, so he loves his little stupid forms and Goku and Vegeta hype fest. Um, that's why I said when I want to see like superheroes apparently still not on DVD. I want to see it again because it was just so refreshing to have it focus on someone who wasn't Goku and Vegeta. Like I was just happy that it was about someone that wasn't them. Like goddamn. No, I'm gonna go and look at that Dragon Ball script I had before. It's a little 20-minute episode. Again, I don't know if I want to make it. It could be a series if I want it to be, but I don't want to like bog myself down with too much stuff. But it was it was just something that focused on the other Z fighters. God, it's just nice when you get you know attention to someone else for once. Oh, by the way, Akatsuki Merchant, I was gonna ask you this because I forgot about this, or I didn't think of it when last time I did a stream. So, all jokes aside, you remember how in Dragon Ball a lot, like for example, with the Saiyan Saga, Nappa fights all the Z fighters and he fights Goku. You know what I'm talking about? Like he fights them before he fights the person that actually beats him. So Michael B. Jordan is a Dragon Ball fan, and that's why Killmonger's armor is the color that it is. It's supposed to look like Vegeta's armor. And in Black Panther, first he fights Okoye and the Dormilaje. Then he fights Nakia for like a little bit. Then he fights Shuri. Then he fights T'Challa. Like first he fights T'Challa and beats him. Then he fights the Dormilaje and Okoye. Then he fights Nakia. Then Okoye. Then T'Challa again. So do you see how like it's the same thing where they either first go through the supposed supporting characters who are the people who are not going to win, obviously, before they get their big fight with the person that's actually going to beat them toward the end. You get where like they that reminds me of Dragon Ball so much, where because I'm telling you, in other superhero movies, it's the hero versus the villain. You never really see the villain fighting other people before they get like outside of the protagonist. So do you see how like that reminds me of something from Dragon Ball where everybody gets like their shot at trying to beat the antagonist before the actual person that's gonna win shows up? Like Killmonger is basically Frieza, and they're all like, all right, fighting one. This person will fight. Oh, they didn't win. This person will fight. Oh, they didn't win. Oh, this person will fight. I'm not even joking. I can't think of any other superhero movies besides the Black Panther films where like they all try to take a shot at whoever the villain is. Especially in the first one where he fights like 5 or 6 different people. Because I cut out that he fought Claw technically. Like they were at an armistice. Yep, yeah, it's so stupid. It straight up just feels like they were just hyping. Okay, but you get what I'm saying of how it kind of reminds me, and I'm not going to call it stupid because I thought I liked that it was something different as far as like I really can't think of many other solo superhero films where the other characters try to fight the main villain before the protagonist gets involved or comes back or whatever. So I was saying that you get where that reminds me of something out of Dragon Ball where they like all have different individual fights with him before the final opponent shows up and defeats him. I wish you good success with that, dude. That honestly sounds very appealing to see. Yeah, like I said, a lot of times I'll write a script and just not come back to it, but it's got enough subplots where you could kind of because you have this part where it's Gohan and Piccolo, then you have a part where it's Krillin, then you have a part where it's Yamcha. So I can like if I look at it again and try hard enough, I think I could probably finish it. But Megumi, can you think of any solo? And I'm not trying to like put you up on spot or anything. Can you think of any solo superhero movies where there's a main villain and like different supporting characters all try to take the main villain out before they fight the protagonist again or for the first time or whatever? I told you in No Way Home when Goblin is fighting the MCU version of Spider-Man and like the other two are just standing there. It really did feel like something out of Dragon Ball where they just stand around watching and fight. It's like this has no everybody's like, this fight is amazing. It's like first of all, it's really short, it's like 2 minutes, but secondly, it has no stakes because we know that if Goblin gets the upper hand, he's gonna get jumped by the Spider Boys. So what, what stakes? LOL, nope, can't think of a movie to mention. Dude, I'm telling you, and I just was because I rewatched it again with my brother, and I was like, so wait, first he fights the like other villain of the movie, then he fights the actual protagonist, then the bodyguards, then the protagonist's love interest, then the protagonist's sister, then the protagonist again. Like he has like 5 or 6 battles in the movie. I think the best fight in that movie is probably the one at the apartment where he has like the sense and he's like looking around. But the final battle is easily is I think it's just it's too short. It has no stakes because, like I said, the other two are right there and they're not going to let anything happen to him. Um, so I said it's a I think it is a good movie that could have been much better if they made some alterations to it that unfortunately people with their rose tinted glasses are not willing to see. Man, I'm telling you, like that was one of the things I really liked about that film. Just it felt like everybody was a fighter. Like everybody can battle a little bit. God, like he has just individual battles with pretty much the whole main cast. It's crazy. Hey, I was watching some of the let me see. Electro was somewhat of a disappointment to me. Um, you know what I don't understand? It's like he goes to the apartment because he's like, all right, well, I'd rather not die than get like I'd rather not get taken out by a strain, so I'll go along with this. Then he has his mind changed by Goblin by just talking to him one time. He changed his mind. Then he he's actually kind of stupid because it's like he attacks Doc Ock at the apartment, then thinks Doc Ock is on his side when he shows up for the final battle. Apparently, I guess he forgot he attacked him. He's like, oh, he's not going to be mad at me for doing that. Then like it's just it was oh man, he gets more to do than Sandman or Lizard, but you could tell he's just there because they wanted to do their whole inclusion thing. Every past Sony movie has to be represented by at least a villain that was in it, and we don't have that many black people in this film, so let's bring back one of the worst comic book film antagonists ever. I guess I prefer him to crackhead Green Goblin, so maybe that's that's the one saving grace he was there for. At least he got picked over the alternative. God, you could do a whole video on Electro. Um, Tasm Goblin looked goofy, right? And that's why I said as bad as he was, and like I said, I didn't like the way Electro looked either, being all blue. But as bad as he was, I'm I'm at least glad that he didn't come back because I really don't like that version of the character. It's an extremely rushed um, version of Harry that comes out of nowhere, and we're supposed to believe has been childhood friends with this iteration of Peter, even though in the previous movie he wasn't mentioned at all. So it's that's just a version of character I try to forget because I really don't like that they you know rushed his arc. It's like, hey, you guys had a whole trilogy of Harry and the Raimi films. Let's speed it up with one movie. So I'm glad he didn't come back for that reason because I don't really. Then again, like pretty much everything from TASM 2 is just like it's a lot of it is not enjoyable to remember for me anyway. It's a film that I think could have been much better if it weren't so if Sony wasn't dead set on trying to make it this thing that was going to launch its cinematic universe, right? Um, but it's funny to watch it now, especially like after it got canceled, just because it's funny all this stuff never gets resolved. Like it never is going to get answered in any capacity. You're not even going to get a little tie-in comic book that explains what happened. So that's if there's any reason to watch this, just to see all this stuff that's not getting resolved and laugh at the studio for like getting their for putting too many eggs in one basket. Also, by the way, recast T'Challa. Man, I've been seeing that hashtag for so long. I guess because we had me and Akatsuki Merchant talked about this during the I think that was the Purple Juice stream where I was saying that I like the second one as much as I do because it doesn't, or I guess Wakanda Forever, because it doesn't feel like a typical sequel in the sense that it doesn't, at least in my view, have like a main character, and and really everyone that came back from the first film has more to do this time around. Um, like it was funny that people are like, they sidelined M'Baku for sure. I'm like, well, he was only in the first movie for apparently 6 minutes. He's in this for almost what 30, 20 something. So his role's been increased several times over, and you guys are still upset. I don't know. People just you can never please them. You give a character 3 times, or excuse me, 4 times as much screen time as they had before, and then people are still like, "You didn't do enough with him." You just can't win. Oh, I don't think I mentioned I read the Galactus trilogy this week. The so that was that's like Fantastic Four 48 to 50, and that's the introduction of Silver Surfer and Galactus. And it was really interesting just kind of seeing how, like, in this little 2 3 issue story, Silver Surfer actually has an arc where he like learns that people, like the planets that he goes and like scopes out for Galactus to consume, actually have humans there, or rather have like life there that is worth preserving, with independent thoughts and dreams and ambitions that shouldn't be cut short by the consumption of his master. And Galactus actually is a somewhat morally gray character in the sense that he does want to do something that is evil, but it's for the purpose of staying alive. Like it's kind of like how if you have some vampire, they could recognize the fact that people will die because they have to feast, but it's not something that they relish. And he actually does keep true to his word when he says something. It's kind of interesting just seeing that and just thinking about how um Rise of Silver Surfer is an adaptation of this story, but it's really, it takes away all the elements that are actually good. Like it inserts Doom into it, but then it also removes Galactus's character by just having him be this cloud. And the arc for Surfer, even though it's a little bit longer, is kind of it's a lot less subtle. So it's interesting how like it's, I guess I put it like this: when you see the adaptation before you see the source material, you recognize how inferior the adaptation was, because you see the things that worked about it originally, where it's such an iconic story. Like Fantastic Four 48 was voted at one point as one of the best issues Marvel ever made. Um, and I'm like, wow, this is I want to get this in hardcover. That story's too good to be reading on the computer. That's a cool coincidence. I literally rewatched the Fantastic Four for last week, actually, 2005 one. Yeah, I'm still gonna say the second one is better. Um, because I think the first the for like the second act of that movie, things like nothing really happens. But and I do really like the way Silver Surfer looks in live action, even back then, and his powers, and also that he's voiced by Lawrence Fishburne, aka Morpheus from the Matrix trilogy. So I'm gonna go with the second one being a superior film, but I still think it's not as strong of a story as and it's like it God, it's so frustrating because they chose not to introduce Thing's girlfriend, who can't see people and therefore can like see more into who they are, the psyche and whatnot. And I think that really would have empowered that film. And they also cut away with Galactus's characterization. Like, why their logic behind keeping him as a cloud was that they wanted to preserve his mystique so that when he showed up for the first time in a Silver Surfer spinoff, it could be like this big holy hell, oh my god, that's him thing. But instead, it makes them look like clowns retroactively because the spinoff never happened. That's why I said you don't when you make a movie, it could be a comic book film, it could be a comedy film. You shouldn't make it with the intent of having some major aspect of a character take place or resolved in some other movie. Everything you put there needs to service the plot of that film. Like I said, you go watch the first Raimi film, complete movie. There's nothing there about a sequel. It is a finished full length story from top to bottom. The second one, the only thing that's there that could be that needs a little bit of resolving is the Harry stuff. And even then, that's like a little scene all the way at the end, and it's like he doesn't really want to do it, so you're left with this question of will he or won't he? But outside of that, it's a fairly complete series of films. There's nothing there that's like sequel bait, like, hey, go watch the other one for this. And that's what that's why these other series just piss me off so much because everything is predicated on can we get a second one? Can we get a third one, a fourth one, a fifth one, a sixth one? Like it's obnoxious. That's why I said I love the X-Men comics. The X-Men films are a mixed bag, but the comics are excellent because every member gets some kind of characterization or appearance in another story that fleshes them out. It's nice. It's nice seeing characters actually achieve their full potential and not just be showing up every 50 issues to have like one line, you know? But yeah, Galactus's characterization in that trilogy is really interesting because it's someone who's honest, who is doing something because they need to feast, and they have this companion that they trust or fully, who like betrays them after having a character arc of their own, which further serves to foil. It's just a really good story, and I'm glad I finally got to read it. And it makes Rise of the Silver Surfer all the more like frustrating to watch now. It's just like with Dark Phoenix. Like for years, I thought it was because the X-Men animated series is a pretty faithful adaptation of it, but God, those movies they need to just give up on Jean and the Phoenix stuff. Every time they try to do it, they fail. It doesn't work. I like how they portrayed as this ominous looming threat. Well, like I said, I'll take he can still be a threat that you physically see and that speaks. Imagine in live action having these little four ants, which is what the Fantastic Four look like compared to him. And he's like, hey, look, I need to feast. I need to eat. Your planet is simply one in a long line of planets I've eaten. I take no pride in it. It's just it is what it is. And if you try to stop me, you're all gonna die, which will happen anyway, but you'll just be quicker. That could be an imposing threat right there. And um, you can actually have an interesting back and forth between him and Silver Surfer if you allow him to talk and physically be there. So all I'm saying is I really hope one day we get some actual high quality Fantastic Four films, some nines out of tens, some eights out of tens, some tens out of tens. And because like I said, their mythos is so good. They have the scrolls, they have Super Scroll who's got all their powers together. They have Doctor Doom, they have Galactus. I mean, like that's easily four, five, six movies right there. Hell, you can they're the series in which Black Panther was introduced. It is a pretty distinct goal. Like this villain who is destroying planets because he has to live. It's survival of the fittest. But like I said, Fantastic Four's dynamic is something that really I'm frustrated by because it's so cathartic from the standpoint of when you had teams back in like the 40s, 50s with comics, they like each other, they're all trying to save the day. But Fantastic Four, they're a family. They all argue and have these like specific relationships with each other. Reed will say, I need to get the parameter of this, and then Thing will say, can you speak English? Just they all have these very unique ways of interacting with each other. And I just don't feel like any of the movies have done that as well as they could. By the way, the Thing in the two Fox films from the 2000s looks great. That suit that his actor wears, man, that thing is state of the art. It looks so nice. Like the visual effect on that suit looks really good, especially for something that's that old. It just looks like a rock man, but it's not CGI. It's not some stupid thing on the computer. Like it's an actual physical. What I'm talking about. It's just I like the effects of that. It looked nice. The dynamics between the four are always engaging to see. Yeah, because they have distinct interactions with each other. Like you could make a book where you don't even have to see who's who, and you'll know from their dialogue which one is talking. That's why I said it's just really sad that they're a really great and iconic team that is the source of a lot of really memorable stuff in the Marvel universe, and unfortunately, they just haven't been done as well as I think they could be. Just like Sue Storm started off as a little damsel in distress, and John Bryan evolved her into the most powerful member. Can make force fields and destroy. I mean, just all kind of stuff he did to upgrade her. And it's like I watch the films, and she's kind of just sort of the lesser extent player that is there. That's just like whatever. Second movie, she's more concerned about getting married than actually saving the world. Just damsel, crap. And I don't really like that. I like Galactus because it really explores philosophy of survival. Well, that's why I said. But I also like him because he's great material if you want to have a crossover or team up event between all of the major players in Marvel. If you want to have X-Men and Fantastic Four and Avengers and all the rest of them team up, that's usually the go-to villain. And like I said, Doom is one of the greatest comic book villains and just fictional antagonists ever. Him and Magneto, and like that's not even just my opinion. You can go and look at polls that they've done and different rankings from websites. I remember my best friend was like trying to crap on Lex Luthor, and he was like, "What can he do?" He was like, "Well, I mean, besides become president of the United States and match a literal god with his mind by making all these different suits and machines that can hurt him." Like Luthor is literally the conquering of physical incapability through intelligence. It is brains versus brawns, but from the perspective of the antagonist as opposed to, the hero. So I said people that don't read comics, they don't understand this stuff. They don't think hard. They just see things, in a movie or whatever, and then that's it. That paints their entire interpretation of a character. Just like he was trying to trash Doc Ock. I said Doc Ock is one of the most important Spider-Man antagonists and characters are related to that character out of any of them. The first villain to actually beat him, he almost quit being a superhero. He indirectly caused the death of Gwen's dad by chucking that piece of rock off the ground, and Gwen's dad sacrificed himself to save that kid. He founded the Sinister Six, almost beat Black Cat to death, which made Spider-Man snap so much he ripped his arms off his body. I mean, it's that's why I said that, like, people that don't read this stuff, they don't get it. They don't understand. They're not, they see a movie, maybe they see a cartoon, and that just illustrates everything for. And it's sad because they talk about it like they know it, but they don't. I told you, man, people are just they're so dumb. And they're not even dumb for like disagreeing. They're dumb because they don't even like they try to talk about something as if they are knowledgeable of it and they're not. Dude, Doc Ock is like literally the most he's probably the most perfect foil to Peter besides maybe Osborn. Like he's as in the comics, he's as evil as Peter is good. He doesn't have a secret identity. Peter has one. He shows his face. Peter does. I mean, there's we go down the list. They're both very intelligent. One uses their intelligence for good. The other uses it for bad. You know, both are based off some animal, whatever. So there's a reason that while Goblin got killed off after the first like 10 years and was meant to stay dead, they kept Ock around pretty much since the beginning. I think he's the first villain that we see a second time. I have to go look at my omnibus because I know he shows up again like maybe 7 or 8 issues later. Yeah, I think he shows up like 3 times before Goblin shows up once. So he was clearly like a favorite of Lee even from like his early days. Mm. Dude, I'm telling you, people that don't read comics, like and again, it's like you can whatever, you don't have to, but don't sit here and try to tell me who's cool and who isn't. I mean, get out of my face. Like just go away. So yeah, I've read over 500 some issues of Spider-Man. I've read over 400 issues of X-Men. I'm only about 50 something in Fantastic Four, but I just don't have time for people that try to like lecture me about who's cool and who isn't, and they haven't read anything. They see a crappy movie and they think that they know the full extent of some character, and they don't. Just like I've seen people try to trash Superman. I'm like, Superman is literally the archetype for superheroes. Like the capes, the chest symbol, all that started with him. That like calling him boring or a bad character is the equivalent of calling of like let's say liking anime and be like, oh man, Goku is so lame. I mean, you can't trash the archetype without looking like an idiot. Like he's literally one of the most iconic fictional characters ever. So no one's going to convince me of that. Sorry. Like I said, I think if Cavill had been given a chance to do Man of Steel 2 and a third one and like have this trilogy where he goes from being this like inexperienced hero to that true like beacon of hope, I think you would see a public resurgence in interest in that character. But unfortunately, DC is run by idiots who decided to bring him back for a little stupid cameo and then toss him, to the wayside a short time later. Yeah, people just they're too surface level for me. They don't really think about stuff when they say it. They just diss things. They're like, oh, this can't work. Oh, this character's boring. Oh, this character like get out of here. I don't know. They're just and like I said, the problem is they want to like actually discuss this stuff with me, but they don't know anything because they don't read anything. They don't read, they don't do research, and they want to sit here and tell you something and think you're supposed to fall in line and believe it and agree with them. No. Oh yeah, I remember that damn guy. And I tried to explain before that like my problem is that if you see a trailer to a movie or you read like a script for a movie, right? And you don't think it's good, okay, whatever. You gave it a chance, whatever. But it's like, why would you be opposed to something that you know literally nothing about? Like Megumi, do you understand that that film got canceled um 13 years ago, January 2010, and to this day we know next to nothing about it. We know Vulture was probably the main villain. We know that Black Cat was in it, but whether she was Black Cat or not is up for debate because we've had Raimi say she would have been Black Cat. We had something about the Vulturess or whatever. We know that the like at least we would have seen like the Daily Bugle in there again, and then probably Aunt May, Mary Jane. Um, but it's still like the actual story of the movie. We to this day know almost nothing about. We've not seen one script. We've not seen any actual breakdown, play by play of what the plot of that film would have been. And there's a good chance we may never. It could be another 20 years and you still don't know anything about it. So to sit here and say, "Oh, this this movie would not have been as good as this," it's like, but you don't know anything about it. You don't know what they were writing. They had four versions of that script. So, and we've not seen any of them. So we are still ignorant of what the plot of that film would have been. That's why I said people just they're just against stuff to be against stuff. They only like they speak entirely from this perspective of ignorance and just being uninformed, and like they want you to talk to them. It's like just go away, you know? Like seriously, if I try to have a debate or a conversation with someone about something and I don't know, well, first I wouldn't have a debate about something I'm not familiar with or fully knowledgeable of, but I'm not going to sit here and then say, "Oh, well, no, this is not as good," even though I don't know what happened. But trust me, like I don't trust you. Like I said, I'm just tired of ignorance, and I'm tired of people, trying to speak to me as if they know something and they don't. Oh man, man, I told you, I actually about a year or two ago was writing a Spider-Man 4 script, and it was supposed to take place like a couple of years after the third one, because a lot of people forget the third one is a year after the second one. And Peter was still in college, but he wasn't like I guess he was towards the end of it, whatever. And I remember distinctly that like the version of Vulture I had is that he wants to like become younger by basically turning regular younger people into bones. And he doesn't feel bad because he sees them like, you know, wasting time, not really doing anything. Because he has like this complex of like, I used to be something. I was the CEO of this company, blah, 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 blah. And his daughter, it like she knows he experiments, Black Cat, but like she doesn't know the extent of it. So like her arc over the course of the movie would be her like switching from his side to Peter's. Um, and that was like, just general overview of it. Yeah, but how does that make any sense? It would make sense if they actually knew or aware of what they are being opposed to. But they don't. They're just against stuff to be against stuff. Like I said, we know way more about TASM 3 than we know about SM4. So if I say, "Hey, I don't want TASM 3," and when I say that, I'm talking about I don't want that version that they had that they canceled the series before it got made. If they try to make a new one with a different script, then that'll be a different story. All I'm saying is I actually know the plot details of that scrap third movie, and it sounds like crap. So I hope they rewrite it, or they can go ahead and make it. I just want to watch it if that's still the story. I don't think it will be, but still, you never know with these people. They're gonna be like, all right, Tasman 3 got greenlit. Time to dust off the script. You know what I mean? Like people are just crazy. They might take that trash and breathe some new life into it. What baffles me more is people who trash stuff they don't like and get mad when that show or comic or anime has any kind of development. We know a lot of people hate watch, so they watch stuff that they say is not good, but then they keep checking it out and keep viewing it. Like, are you watching something you obviously don't like? Yeah, people are insane, man. They, like I said, there you have people who are subscribed to channels they don't like just so every time the person uploads, they can click the downvote. You know, people are nuts. They have nothing. Some of them truly have nothing better to do. Their entire existence is predicated on anti this, anti that, and at least with the guys that make videos like that like trash them, like new movies, new shows that come out. At least they get paid to do it. There's at least some kind of incentive, right? More subscribers, more views. Some of these people are just in comment sections hating on stuff, and like, what do you get out of it? What I said, it's just weird, man. But anyways, just to go back to this SM4 script for a second, because I was developing and I had like 20 pages and I just stopped because I was having like a hard time with it. But the idea is that it's supposed to be a story of acceptance and realizations. So for example, Peter realizes through the story that he's never going to get over Harry's loss, but he accepts that it happened, that this will always be the person that meant something to him, and he'll try to like, you know, become friends with other people, or like, he'll still try to like go on in memory of his friend. Like he'll never forget him, but he'll try to like be open about the fact that this is something that still has like a hole in his heart. Um the Vulture's plot was that he in a subversion of this doesn't ever realize that he's never going to become this younger person that he plots to be, and at the end he goes out chasing after his dream by trying to continue to make people bones so he can keep making himself younger, but it doesn't last, or it doesn't stick, or it just doesn't work altogether with his little evil experiments. Because I really want to do like a horror movie type thing with that, where it's like people just at night just getting abducted by this creature, and because Raimi was a horror director with Evil Dead, and just like just grabbed and they vanish and you can't find where they are, that type of thing. Um and I had Mary Jane in there. I had Gwen from the third movie come back and like become someone that Peter was just platonically friends with, because for some damn reason with these superhero films they think any female character has to be the love interest of the protagonist, and I was trying to like subvert that by just having her be a close friend of his that he was like still, because they were established in the third movie to still go to school together. So I was trying to just show that they were just friends at this point. Um and I had like the Black Cat arc, but yeah, it was really supposed to be this story where there's like a character arc for Peter, for Mary Jane, for Gwen, and for Black Cat. And like the Vulture thing is supposed to just be this thing that just brings them together to stop him, and like Peter has this like realization that he can't always just defeat these villains by himself. um and that was evidenced by the third movie with Harry coming to help him against Sandman and Venom. So it was just something that I like the general idea of, and again, like, even if you didn't like that version of the script, mind you, it's still something I made up. It's not actually what we know the fourth film would have been. It was just my idea of what it could have been, versus what possibly could have occurred. So it's just me as a fan filling in the blanks and doing my own thing, trying to like keep the lore of the last three movies intact and whatnot. But yeah, it's just sad that this, the stuff is the way it is. It just feels like a lot of people say things and they don't know what they're talking about, and they just kind of hope that the people that listen to them are just as uninformed and they'll get away with being ignorant. Um. So yeah, I guess that'll be the end of this stream because I got this thing I have to go do, run some errands. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you liked the conversation, and I'll be back obviously on on Monday. So I appreciate Megumi showing up. I appreciate the Kotsky merchant showing up, and have a good rest of your weekend. All right. So thank you.